Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse has hit the movie theaters, and I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. Very good, I think much better than the original. And with that, welcome to Scoopman 5000. We're going to be talking shop about Marvel and DC movies. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment at the end of this video what your opinions on all this was. You've seen the movie? If you haven't seen the movie, let's get it. So the original Into the Spider-Verse didn't really click with me the same way it clicked with a lot of people. I always see these lists of Spider-Man movies, and this is the #1 Spider-Man movie? You're out of your fucking mind. There's about 6 fucking certified classics, and yeah, I'm going to defend Far From Home with that too. I'll give you the Sony Amazing Spider-Man, but it ain't better than Tobey, and in my opinion, it's not better than Tom Holland. Regardless, this movie is a contender. I think it's much better. It has a lot more meat on the bone. It leaves you wanting more, which we'll get into. And I think years from now, this will age better than Into the Spider-Verse. We're going to get into spoilers. We're going to run through the movie. So if you haven't seen it, if you can't tell already, I'm going to give it the recommendation. Let's get into it. We start out this movie, and it's a really stylized, really cool sequence of Gwen on the drums, almost like Scott Pilgrim vibes it's giving me. Gwen's jamming out, kind of recapping the previous movie, or especially her side of the story. She really misses Miles. She has no place in her world. But all this stuff is really great with Gwen. She's a great character in this movie. Again, I think better than the first movie in that regard. And I want to see like a movie of just her in her universe, doing spider stuff, her villains, her dynamic with Captain Stacy that goes throughout this movie. And we start out, we get a bit of a flashback, and it's her, Peter Parker, obviously, who died, but now we learn he became the Lizard, and she fought him at the school prom. The building fell on Peter. He died, and Spider-Gwen's at the wrong place, the wrong time. Captain Stacy thinks that Spider-Woman did it. Then there's a police radio. They go over, and it's the first of many really cool, different styles of animation. Every character almost has a different animation style. And this one is a version of the Vulture, and he's made out of parchment paper. And it's hard to explain, but it looks really cool. And then this is when we get Miguel O Hara coming in, and his organization, the Spider Society, is basically the TVA from Loki, just for spider people. They take these time aberrations that shouldn't be there, crossing multiverses, and they send them back where they belong. They don't want to break the spider web multiverse. Now, 2099, he's awesome in this scene. You know, you can already tell, like, he was made for this style. And again, and this is really my main point, is for 2099, I think of that, I think of Batman Beyond. Different realization of the character, a new guy, a diverse character, cool villains, cool setting. I want to see that as a movie or a series or something. If we're just using 2099 as this almost antagonist of Spider-Verse, I think it's a massive waste. But we'll get into that as we go along. His second in command is Spider-Woman, and she's called Jessica Drew, and they took one of the worst, regarded as one of the worst things, pregnant Spider-Woman. And now they gave her the old Hollywood palette swap to go along with that. She's kept to a minimum. She's barely even a factor, but it's ridiculous. And she's riding around on this fucking motorcycle, and you just wince every time you see her because she's fucking pregnant, whipping around. I'm pretty sure Spider-Woman miscarried in the comic book, so who the fuck knows where that's going, but it's pretty embarrassing. It's not good. But, you know, like I said, she's kept to a minimum, and Miguel's about to leave. Captain Stacy goes to arrest Spider-Woman, but she ends up going along with the Spider Society with Miguel O Hara. And that's our cold open. We get the title screen here, and we're about 20 minutes into the movie. And it was great sequence. I think we have a lot of interesting pieces here. Gwen especially, Spider-Man 2099 especially. I'd love to see some focus projects about a Gwen movie and a 2099 movie. I think those would do really well. But speaking of Miles, this is where we finally see him. 25 minutes into the movie. He's doing his thing. He's Spider-Man. He's struggling in school, or at least struggling to show up and balance. Classic Spider-Man stuff. And speaking of that, is a great interaction. The first time we see the Spot, he's robbing an ATM in this little bodega run by this funny Jamaican dude. Spider-Man Miles shows up, and this is a great fucking Spider-Man scene. I'm a believer that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Spider-Man 2099 is Miguel. Spider UK, Spider-Punk. You gotta have your own name. So the whole point of the first movie with anyone can be Spider-Man, hey, I'm Spider-Man, look at me, I'm Spider-Man, anyone can be Spider-Man. Not really for me. I will say though, this bodega fight with the Spot, that was Spider-Man. And the Spot, at one point, you know, he gets captured by Miles, but then he escapes. He goes inside of himself, basically, and he enters the multiverse. And this is the beginning of a lot of great cameos, including Mrs. Chen from Venom, which is the first of a few live-action incorporations here. We also see Lego Spider-Man, like stop-motion style. And then we come back to Lego Spider-Man, and I was marking out. That was probably like the fucking biggest grin I've had on my face. Unfortunately, Lego Spider-Man is not part of like the main crew, which I would totally advocate for. But nonetheless, the Spot, he does all this traveling, but then he runs out of spots, so he has to build a new machine. This is when Miguel's crew takes notice, and Gwen is sent on a mission to this universe. But of course, she's got to say hi to Miles first, and they meet up, and they're falling in love and whatever. Spider-Woman says you shouldn't do that. She goes to the Spot's apartment. Miles follows her with his invisibility, and Miles follows Gwen into the multiverse, into the Spider-Verse to find the Spot, who's causing all kinds of havoc breaking the universe. Where they land is Spider-Man India. And this is like a whole 20-minute section of the movie that basically sets up Spider-Man India's version of Captain Stacy, who's Captain Singh. And he's supposed to die, like Captain Stacy does in many versions of Spider-Man. But since Miles is there, and he wasn't supposed to be, he saves him. That causes a hole in the multiverse. 2099 takes notice, he brings him in. So we get the backstory of this 2099. He found a regular version of Miguel that was mugged and killed. He went into his universe, basically replaced him, but that broke the universe. That's why he became the leader of this TVA-like faction. This is also the point you see every Spider-Man suit. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Spider-Man people. PS4 Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man Unlimited. They're all there. Great cameos. You could spend hours combing over the background shots here. One of the background characters got an action figure, Cyborg Woman. Why is it called Spider-Woman? It doesn't have one line of dialogue in the movie. I guess so they can make a fucking news article about it. You know, that's all we get with Miguel, is his somewhat tragic multiversal escapades. But I don't know if that's taken from any Spider-Man 2099 comics. But again, I want to see his universe, Nueva York. I want to see all that separated from the Spider-Verse. I think he would have a great movie on his own. Oscar Isaac, he's kind of, you know, getting a little sickening. He's in everything, but he's good. And it's at this point the movie gets a little weird, and I feel like this is going to be the point where you either love it or hate it. I'm weirded out by it. The movie's very meta, which movies are getting way too comfortable using meta like that, where that's becoming a fucking cliche. And there's another cliche at the end of this movie. But for now, we are shown the Spider-Verse, the spider web that connects everything. And you get a lot of great live action cameos. You get Andrew Garfield holding Captain Stacy. You get Tobey in the background holding Uncle Ben. You get some comic book screenshots. You get some video game footage in there. You get Donald Glover as the Prowler, which is a big homecoming payoff. You don't really get anything from Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I'm sure he's in the background somewhere, but not as prominent as the Andrew and the Tobey, less so. So this is where it's revealed that there's something called a canon, which is a meta term. Canon, as if, you know, what happens in the universe. Every Spider-Man story is supposed to have this tragic thing where the police captain dies. Miles stopped it from happening. As it turns out, his dad is going to become police captain next. So it's this almost Guardians 2 moment where he's like, what? This is not, you know, and then he tries to escape. It's weird though, because Peter B. Parker is there. Everyone is just fine with this. Oh, it has to happen. Everyone knows when their fucking relatives and or police captains and or Uncle Bens are gonna die, and they just accept it. And it's kind of like universe breaking, like nothing matters, Loki fucking Kang stuff. Like, I don't know. It's not for me. Like, I think we're getting too comfortable with all this multiverse meta bullshit. Like, just tell a fucking story. But, you know, it's just motivation. It's just so Miles can do his thing. Oh, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm Miles. I'm different. And then everyone's telling Miles in the whole movie, you weren't supposed to be here. Your spider was from the other universe. You weren't supposed to be here. It's very, like, commentary, meta, like, oh, we're firing back at the fucking backlight. Just tell a story. So, a little bit frustrating there, but it's all good animation. It's told well for what it is, but what it is kind of stupid. Miles ends up escaping the whole spider brigade, and he's goes into the machine that sends you back where you're from, but it sends him back to his spider universe, not from his universe, because his spider's from the multiverse. And as a result, that spider left that world and doesn't have a Spider-Man. So when Miles goes home, he's greeted by his mother, who's like, what the fuck are you doing? You look different. And then his uncle, the Prowler, is back. He's alive, and he takes Miles with him. He's talking about this criminal scheme, and Miles is freaking out. Then, wham, he's hit by the Prowler. We go back, Miles wakes up, and he's in the Prowler's lair. Meanwhile, Gwen escapes also, but she went to Miles' actual universe, where she has a little conversation with Miles' parents. Still, they don't know he's Spider-Man. Back at the Prowler lair, tells you, oh, uncle. He tells his uncle, please don't do this. I know you don't want to be the Prowler. You just think you have to be, whatever. As it turns out, it's just evil Miles is the Prowler. And I think this is kind of lame. It's not this big fucking shock that I think the movie wants you to think it is, because the movie ends here. It's a fucking cliffhanger ending. Now, the last movie I saw was fucking Fast and Furious 10, but it's weird that we're getting 2 cliffhangers back to back when movies haven't done that in ages. But yeah, to me, it's like Kermit wearing the fucking hood. Like, it's kind of lame, and for that to be your ending, whatever. But, I mean, I feel like I'm sounding negative, but it was a very good movie, and I think, like the original, but even more so here, it gets by on a lot of style, and I think this movie does have more meat to it, and it leaves me wanting more. I want to see what's next, and I want to see solo projects for Gwen and for 2099. Now, some characters I didn't mention. Spider-Punk was great in this movie. I don't think he has enough meat on the bone for like a series, but he's a great character, and I'm sure he'll be back in the sequel. And Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider, they fucking painted him up all 90s style, and they kind of leaned into it. Oh, I'm so edgy, like, it's all meta. I think we could have dialed that back a bit. I think Scarlet Spider is really fucking cool, and I think we could have used him a bit more. Even though Spider-Woman's barely in this movie, she's in it more than Scarlet Spider. I would have taken her out, and as Miguel's second-hand man, I would have had Scarlet Spider. Just, you know, just to see him more and have him do cool stuff. I'm sure he'll be in the sequel as well, because at the end of this movie, it's 2099, Scarlet Spider, and I think one other character, and they go to track down Miles. So overall, I think it was great. It was much better than the original. I still got some problems with it. We'll see if those things kind of take a back seat or become more prominent as we get into the sequel, which we're only going to have to wait 1 year. I think that movie's coming out next year. Really a 2-part of one story of a movie, and we'll have a pretty good trilogy by the end of this. I guess let me know, where do you rank the Spider-Verse movies in terms of the grand Spider-Man picture? Because to me, like, nothing beats the Peter Parker, the Tobey Maguire, and even Tom Holland I've really come to appreciate and love. I think No Way Home, not only is it fan service to the fucking extreme measure, but it's also a beautiful Peter Parker story that understands the Spider-Man character like no other movie. So at the very, very, very least, I think that these Spider-Verse movies cannot be more than the 4th best. To me, it's like the 6th. I'm a defender of Far From Home and Homecoming. Let me know your opinions on all that, because I'm sure I'm in the minority here. If you're interested in the action figures from this movie, I did review 2099 and Spider-Punk as well. You can check that out on my action figure review channel. That's going to do it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next video.